11:05 right now, so let's try and limit this thing to about an hour. All right, because Victor's already hungry. Victor, you already hungry?
What are you thinking about eating?
Plucked up is what I'm looking at.
Wow.
Fried chicken.
I thought you were done with Plucked Up.
No, I've given it another try, and I think they've got through that bad batch of chicken. So.
All right, they got it figured it out. They figured it out.
Thank goodness.
Okay. All right, so here we are. This is Fortcast. All right. Okay, so we're going to have another discussion here with Victor. We're thankful that Victor is here. Victor is our good friend. I won't say best friend because he corrected me last time. But
we're
Victor,
working towards best friendship.
Yeah, all right. So Victor is my very good friend, and I love him quite a bit. And Victor is one of the pastors at
Ambassadors of Christ Ministries and Embajadores de Cristo.
Yes. All right. I was going to mess up the last part and probably the first part too, but even though I usually do it on purpose just for fun. But so Victor is a pastor where they have his father's a senior pastor. He's associate pastor. His father started the church. 2 congregations under the same roof, one English speaking, one Spanish speaking. So
that's right.
Great ministry. They starting ministries and planting churches in different parts of the world. Really cool stuff. Awesome ministry. And of course, Kayla's here. Say hey, Kayla. Kayla, what were you doing this morning?
This morning I was helping my sister with the flat tire.
See, now I love you a lot, but you wouldn't be the first person I would call to help me change a flat tire. I hope you don't see that as an insult, but
no, I mean you wouldn't assume that I could change.
But you can.
Tire.
But you're good at it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
But her spare tire was flat, so.
So,
yeah.
But you can change a flat tire.
Yeah, I've changed many a flat tire in my day.
Is that because you run over a lot of stuff?
That's because I've had a lot of flat tires and I didn't want anyone to know about it.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Is that because you like ran over a curb or something like that?
I ran over a curb twice. One time, I don't know what happened. I guess it was a random object. One time there was a nail in my tire. So, Mom and Dad, if you're watching this, I've had at least 6 flat tires that you don't know about.
Wow.
That's
nice.
Impressive.
That's good.
I'm
it's good.
At least twice your age. I don't think I've had 6 flat tires in my life. Yeah. So that doesn't bode well for the future of your tires.
I can think of 3 that I've had to do. That's about it.
But I've gotten better, I think all these were in between the ages of 16 and 19.
I'm at a stage in my life now where I just want to call somebody. I mean, I can do it, but I'm just they give you that when you buy tires. They say roadside assistance and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna call somebody, let them come get it.
Yeah, unless they're an hour away, and I have to wait an hour, I'll just do it.
As long as the air's still running the car.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm all right. So here's what we're gonna do today. Kayla is gonna bring our topic today. You ready? You ready to bring our topic?
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to try and do when we do this is focus in on some topic and just kind of talk through it a little bit with the folks we have in the room. Sometimes we'll bring in some other people. But so Kayla has an idea for a topic today. And so, Kayla, why don't you introduce it to me and Victor, and we'll just see where it goes.
Okay, so this is something that's been on my mind a lot but I think that's mostly because I'm a millennial and I'm always looking at things that we hold dear as fundamental truths that are sometimes crap.
Okay.
Like I'm always want to challenge what the culture is saying that you need to do, or what the culture is saying is best for you, because a lot of times. I'd say about 75% it's crap. I'll give him the 25%.
Okay.
But
right.
You know what? A lot of times there's like truth to it, but it just goes overboard. So the one I wanted to talk about is toxic relationships.
Now, before you go, so you're this concept you're about to introduce is toxic relationships, which I've heard the term before, but you're saying that whatever you're about to describe now is one of those belief systems that you said millennial, may have, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what you're about to describe, one of those beliefs. Okay, so all right, go for it.
And that it's overblown a little bit? Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I'm positioning my mind right.
No, I'm not defending it. Well, I'm defending parts of it.
Parts of it, okay.
At some point, we need to define millennial, because I think Victor falls
millennials are, millennials, I think, are 85 to 95.
Okay. That wouldn't be me.
Yeah, 85 to 95 are millennials.
I just missed that.
Okay, so toxic relationships.
Toxic relationships. So it started out as like, I would see it here and there. And I feel like now it's just like everybody's posting about toxic relationships, toxic friendships, toxic, more so in the toxic friendships or toxic family members things. So I saw a quote that was like, I wish I had it pulled up so I could read it, but it was basically saying, don't feel bad for cutting people off. Don't feel bad for being selfish. No, it's that you're allowed to cut people off that don't benefit you. You're allowed to feel selfish. You're allowed to be unforgiving. You're allowed to...
Somebody posted this?
Yes.
Okay.
You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to, cut anyone off that's not... Or you're allowed to cut toxic relationships out of your life.
So get rid of people that are not good for you.
Yes.
Negative.
Gotcha.
People that aren't good for you. People that don't... that won't benefit you in any way. People that, So when I think of the word like toxic relationships in general, I feel like is more of a feminine terminology. But I think that, men and women have experienced it. But I think it's more so common among women, because men don't go around and be like, bro, you toxic. Like, I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't typically
man, you
think
hurt
of
my
things
feelings, so you're just doing too much. So, I mean, you're toxic. No one, guys don't go around saying that,
Victor, you did hurt my feelings last week when you said I wasn't your best friend.
Toxic, cut them off.
Millennials, what I've got here on the Google says that millennials were born 81 to 96.
Oh.
So
I'm 4 months short of that.
4 months short?
Yeah.
All right. You were born 1980?
September of 1980.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I'm 4 months short
Very
of being
close.
a millennial.
I'm a Generation X. What year were you born, Kayla?
94.
94. That is the year that I graduated high school. One year late, by the way. so should have graduated in 93. Should have graduated before you were born. So.
Right.
Yeah, all right. So
you still may have, depending on what month.
October.
Yeah, so you graduated before she was born. There you go. You still beat her.
All right, so
you beat my birth.
So toxic relationships. So you think that now? Do you see this among your friends or among people that taking on that attitude and going and really actually cutting people off? Because I'm just gonna jump in all what I see in ministry as a pastor is I see a lot of people who keep going back to bad relationships and where I'm always wondering, all right, where's the line where you need to cut people off? But we'll get around to that in a few minutes. But so you see this a lot in people that are your friends?
Yes, and I will. Now that you mention it, there is a cycle with it. So then it'll be kind of like in a friend group. So let's say like one friend has like a habit of crossing people. Mm-hmm. It's like they'll talk about it and be like, yeah, I just can't deal with her anymore. And then like for a certain amount of time, it's like this, like
there's a friend break.
Yeah, there's a friend break. But then after a certain amount of time, it's like that friend will come back and like blah blah blah. But I only think that's because they're not being honest about it. Mm-hmm. Like I think if they.
How do you mean?
But that's a part of the whole toxic relationship thing is that you don't have to be honest about it. You don't have to tell this friend, you know, what they've been doing or how you've been feeling about their actions towards you, you could just like, that's it.
I got you.
I think that it kind of exposes the word that comes to my mind is a utilitarian view of friendship, where you're my friend as long as you're good for me, and there's no mutual kind of back and forth. The idea that, you know, I benefit from you being in my life even when I don't like what you're telling me, because you can't do it because you care for me. I mean, I can't have people in my life that only see me that way. Like, so I would consider that to be toxic rather than someone who would say to me, hey, Victor, what you said the other day hurt my feelings, and I'd be like, man, I'm sorry.
And then it's not even like, did this hurt my feelings? But I feel like toxic is starting to mean like just irritating. Like, you're annoying me, or you make certain things inconvenient for me.
Well, it's an excuse.
Exactly. Like, are they toxic? Are they not good for you? Or do they just get on your nerves? Is it hard to love them?
It's lazy. That's what that sounds like.
So
basically.
Well, so maybe let's work to define what you're talking about. So what you're concerned about, I guess, is the most liberal definition of toxic relationship, which would be all the way down to, you know, she doesn't like my Instagram pictures, or what? I mean, like something, you know. I mean, what would it be? I mean, something really superficial, or she's annoying, or he gets on my nerves. Or...
No, I mean, the definition of toxic is like dangerous, right? Like something that.
Yeah, because when you say toxic to me, I'm thinking about like
harmful,
for real things that I've dealt with.
Like you would think about abusive relationships, or you know, something that's actually dangerous that can harm you.
Right.
You know, physically, mentally,
stealing
emotionally.
drugs out of my medicine cabinet.
Harm you. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's not that deep.
Okay.
At least from what I think. There's a portion of the toxicity.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah.
Wow, I got it right.
Yeah.
That it's like, we're not on the same page.
Gotcha.
So that's not going to benefit me in the long run. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's that part to it. There's the part that's like, so-and-so is always asking me for something. Always, you know what I mean? Like, it's a broad term just to cover anything that's not in your favor.
But so it's basically whatever I define as not liking, I can say is toxic.
Yes.
That you cannot exist in culture in society like that. I just don't see how, and not alienate everybody around you.
But I think it goes back to what you were talking about, utilitarian, or, you know, what benefits me. You know, does this relationship benefit me? Does it benefit my self-esteem, you know, my self-worth, my, you know, physical well-being, my mental well-being, does it benefit me financially or my comfort level, whatever it is? Is there something I'm getting out of it? And that is, I think, Christianity would have a real problem with an attitude like that. I don't think we ever be in the position of going, well, what about I got to get mine, right? You know, I mean, that can't ever be the place that we are if we're following Christ's example and you know, trying to humble ourselves like him. So we run into some real problems as Christians with that kind of attitude.
Right.
And so I think when we talk about the most superficial thing, I think we would say as Christians, we shouldn't be, in my opinion, we shouldn't be looking for reasons to cut people off.
Exactly.
All right. I mean, you agree with that?
Yes.
I mean, that shouldn't be the I shouldn't.
No, I totally agree with that. I think, well, the thought that came to mind, I've been reading through Proverbs the last few weeks. Oh. And the one...
Victor reads the Bible.
Look out!
And extracurricular books, too.
Do it regularly. But this past week, most of us have heard this verse. I looked it up just because I don't remember the reference, but 27:17, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just a basic idea in the scripture that we're built for community. I mean, the very first story in the Bible is it's not good for man to be alone, and so what does God do? He creates a partner that's like him, not like anything else. And so the Christian worldview is built around the idea of community. It's built around the idea of family, in essence, because we're being adopted. It's built around the idea of the fact that no one is good by themselves, and so we need one another in order to grow,
Right. And so the problem is when the need one another is everybody in my life needs to be helping me to,
Right.
and it may even be, it may be like a good aspiration. You need to be helping me grow spiritually.
Right.
If you're not, your interaction with my life not helping me grow spiritually, then I don't need you as part of my life,
Right. So then my question becomes like, so everyone needs one another. So how do you deal with those people that are hard to love? Like, I've come across friendships that are just more needy than others, or more, like they look at me as something, like it just becomes uncomfortable when like someone, have you ever had a friend that like values your opinion like too much? Like what you're doing, they have an opinion, either have an opinion about everything you do, or they feel like what they're doing doesn't measure up to what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I find those relationships to be the hardest, because it's like, I don't know what to do to help you. Like, I don't know.
And it's a lot of pressure because they're always looking to you.
A whole lot of pressure. So, like, if something changes in your life, and then, like, they're looking at you like,
Yeah.
I can't keep up, or, oh, Kayla's doing this, or Victor's doing this. You know what I mean? Like, that's the most difficult part of it, I feel like, is when you're dealing with someone that, like, it's just not that you don't want to get rid of them, but it's like, it's really hard for me to deal with you. And it doesn't just have to be that, but just like, everyone has their thing that it's just most difficult for them to deal with.
The one thing, I did youth ministry for about 10 years. And the one thing I always struggled with in just teaching, interacting with youth, and youth being 6th grade, 11 to 12-year-olds to 18 was the group that I was kind of dealing with regularly, was this tendency to always become inward focused. So always about me, what's happening in my life. And the danger with that is always that the person begins to filter everything that they see and hear through how it impacts them. And there's no mutual expression. It's like, you did something to me and therefore I collapse, like into a crumpled mess. Rather than, no, I have an inner strength. I have an inner, person there that can push back against that. And so we know the idea of peaceful interaction in stressful situations no longer exists. People are just like, you say something bad to somebody, they become a mess. And I'm like, no, I'm going to fight back.
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about, because I think in this conversation, there's different kinds of relationships.
Right.
Right. I mean, so what are, if we talk about different kinds of relationships, we've got, when I think of toxic relationships, my immediate thought is like a romantic relationship, the person that you're, paired up with. But then there are friendships that can be toxic. And then I think even in ministry, all of us work in ministry, there's ministry relationships that sometimes feel like they are toxic, like they've crossed over the line, and become toxic. And so there's different levels of relationships. I guess, would you agree with that? I mean, there's different kinds of relationships, but in those different kinds of relationships, are there different levels? Would you put, and this is kind of a dumb question, but you put your family at one place, your friends at another place, so what are the different levels? And then among friends, there are different levels to the relationships.
I think the one thing that I have always found helpful is using the idea of intimacy. Mm-hmm. How much of myself does that person know? Mm-hmm. Right. So obviously my wife knows me the best because we have shared things that no one else knows. Right. Virtue of our marriage. My children would be after that, but they don't know me as well as my wife because they're my kids. Mm-hmm. And there's certain things I don't tell them. My friends know certain things about me. Right. And so the depth of each kind of relationship is measured by how much that person knows me.
Okay.
So I have a friend who knows me very intimately because there are things that I've shared with him because he discipled me. Mm-hmm. Likewise with, what I'm saying? So
right. So would you say that you intentionally keep certain relationships at certain levels?
Yes.
Okay.
For my sanity, because the thing is that not everyone can know everything about you, because then the sense of, can I trust that person not to divulge that? And so I mean, even Jesus had one very good friend within the disciples, and then a group of 3, and then obviously the 12. So there is this idea that you can't be completely intimate with a lot of people. You can only be completely intimate with a small group of people, because trust is the basis of that, and length of time. So, I've known people for over 10 years, and I trust them with things that I can't trust someone who I've only known for a month.
Right. Yeah.
And so time is also an indicator of how intimate you can be with somebody. To me, that's the way I think about it. I'm not saying that's true everybody, but that's helped me to figure out,
the levels.
Right. The longer I've been a friend with you, and the more I've been able to share with you, the more trusting I can be, because you've earned it. And so I can share things with you that I might not be able to share with somebody else.
So if you're comfortable with it, so give us like your top two. You don't have to keep going down, because then you might hurt somebody's feelings, but give us like your top tier relationship. So these are the closest people in your life, and down, like don't go too far. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's fine. I mean, so I would break it down to my family. So there's my wife and my dad and my mom, closest, and then my siblings would kind of come a little bit after that, just because time and space and life. And then friends, there's the man who discipled me, whose name I won't divulge, but you know who it is. Yeah. You as well, because we shared that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Rodney, I'll say, because he's not anywhere near here, but that group, we built something when we shared that time together.
Yep.
And so ministry-wise, there's a couple of people. Now, obviously, you guys overlap because we're all in ministry. So, so friendship and ministry kind of overlap.
Yeah.
Just because you understand the world that I'm in. And I think that's kind of where the big thing is like, there's my family,
that draws the intimacy,
and there's my friend, right? And those are those people that I can name, less than a handful in each category, and those are the most intimate relationships that I have.
And so would you say that after that, I keep these things to this circle,
certain things are
becomes the rest of those people? It's a much bigger group, right?
Right.
This is the small group where I can be. It's not like you're hiding anything, but you feel that kind of level of trust.
I can be myself, and there's plenty of people in my church right now that I would consider very good friends, and and they know a good deal about me.
Yeah.
But they don't know what these folks know at the top.
Right.
Because of time and experience, these folks know the most about me.
Right. Victor got secrets.
Everybody has secrets. I think I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't all have something that we keep.
All right. So how about you, Kayla? Give us your top of your pyramid for relationships.
Honestly, I don't have that figured out. The people that know the most about me.
Who are the most trusted relationships?
My most trusted relationships are probably like 5 people. So it would be.
You don't have to name them.
If you want to be safe, you can keep it at like family. If you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings,
Oh, I love my guys. I love my family.
Yeah.
They're cool. I mean, I was birthed into that relationship, so obviously, I value their relationship the most.
Right.
Because it's my bloodline. Now, as far as like knowing the most about me within my family, general information, I guess, but we don't really get to that,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that super personal, like tell me your deepest thoughts. Probably my mom or my sister know the most about me.
I mean, from the outside looking in, it seems like you got a very close relationship with mom and sis.
Yeah.
But you did tell me one time. Can I, if you don't want this, we can maybe delete it. But you did tell me. Well, if you want to, tell me one of the gifts that you gave your mother for, was it Christmas or her birthday, that relates to this. Do you remember? You gave her, she You're not going to remember. You gave her permission to ask. Well,
oh yeah, I gave her a book of coupons, like handmade coupons.
Right.
And one of them, like a couple, I think 2 of them were like to ask me any question or whatever.
Which I thought was really sad. You had to give your mother a
ask me any
coupon.
question. I mean, but she does it.
You're
anyway.
allowed to ask me a question about
I
my
think-
personal life now, mother.
I think that
It's like The Godfather.
the
Just this
condition
one time.
behind that though is that I wouldn't be awkward about it. Like I'll just
Just tell.
spit it out,
Yeah.
you know. But you won't have to like pump and prime me into doing it. I'll just But honestly, I don't have like a whole lot of deep dark secrets for people to know. So I guess that's why, you know, But anyway, back to the list. My family, and then I have like 5 or 6 friends that would be under that. 2 of them, their names are Devin and Stephanie. They mentored me, I guess. They live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I go to see them, you know, every so often.
That was safe, choosing somebody who doesn't live around here. That was good.
No, I mean, but if I have like a deep struggle or something, they're the first people I would call. Just to like get them advice on how to like, what do you do, like help counsel me through it, you know?
Right.
And then I have, you know, a couple of the friends, Stephanie, Terrence, Catherine. You've met all of those. And then I would say under that, I don't have a husband or children. So, I mean, Joey's in that as well.
Oh, who's Joey?
Joey is my boyfriend. Hi, Joey.
Kaylee, you have a boyfriend?
I do.
Wow. And his
I'm in a
name's Joey?
relationship.
He's very talented.
Joey Roberts, yes.
Joey Roberts.
Official _ Joey Roberts on Instagram.
Give me a break.
Hit him up.
Shout out.
So how long have y'all been dating?
I'm going to be 2 years in July.
Hey.
July
2
4th.
years.
Way to
That's
go,
a long
Joey.
time. Wow.
It's not a long time.
It is 2 years is a long time. That's a really long time.
I guess a long time to be dealing with someone, yes.
So good. So
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's something she said, kind of just generally. One of the things that I know we're trying to parse this all out and trying to kind of just show how we go about this idea of doing it. Because I think we all do it whether we think about it intentionally or not.
Right.
But one of the things that I've tried to do is just to live a consistent life where I could share with most anybody anything and it not be a burden or a secret.
Well, yeah, that's
That-
how I feel. Like,
you know,
there's
I just
nothing
wanna
that I have
be-
on reserve.
Yeah, I just want to be an honest person, an honest broker of my own emotions, of my own life, of my own story. That even if there's a part of my story that might be considered, you know, dark or something I'm not, you know, proud of in some way, that I could still have come to peace with it, and it, because it shaped me. It caused something to happen in me that altered who I was in some ways, whether it's positive or negative. So while there are people with whom I am more quick to, there's no reservation in how quickly I give that information. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't give it to someone who I've just met. It just means that I would wait to share that with them because they may not be able to handle that information for me as a new person.
Right.
You know, like with my dad, just to use him as a safe example, you know, if my dad asks me a question, I don't have to wonder what's he going to think when I tell him this. He's going to be my dad, and he might be mad and he might be upset, but I'm not going to question his care and love for me.
That's
While
true.
someone who I meet, I might want to share that with them because I'm not ashamed of it, but they may not be ready to hear it because they don't know me. They don't know what if I have an agenda or if something going on. So for me, a lot of it is more of timing rather than willingness to trust that person, because I don't have to worry about trusting you if I'm not afraid of it. Right? It's only the things that I want to hide that I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
And if I have no fear in sharing a part of my story, then I can share it with you. And if you want to use that in some way, whether it's positive or negative, that's on you. That's not on me.
Right.
Because that's not a skeleton in my closet. So over the years, and I'm still working at this, but over the years, I'm like, I just want to be a person that I can talk without having to worry, what are they going to think?
Yeah.
Right? If I've already made peace with that, what they think is on them. It's not on me.
Right.
And so
So as far as that goes, the way I always say it is, I need to do less things I'm ashamed of. You know what I mean? So
that's a great.
Anytime, and especially anytime somebody gets, like you hear about somebody, and not saying any of this happened to me, but you hear about some pastor having moral failure, or saying something. Sometimes some of these guys have just gotten in trouble for cussing at staff, and that kind of thing, and thinking, gosh, if I ever done, I don't think I've done that. but you want to live a life where you there's not a lot of stuff that you feel like you got to cover up. You got to keep in the dark. So there's that part about how close are we going to get with people. All right, but then let's come back to the how much are we going to invest in knowing other people and being a part of their life. I guess that's kind of where this toxic relationship thing is going. We decided as Christians we can't just deal with people based on whether they're good for me or not, right? We agree with that. So then we got to ask the question: Is there a line somewhere? How much of ourselves do we invest in somebody else? Is there a line where we go, all right, this is too hurtful, dangerous, whatever? What are the reasons for actually getting to the point of either distancing yourself or absolutely cutting somebody off?
I just want to say that when you were asking that question, which is a great question, by the way, I just kept thinking social media has done so much to destroy our idea of what a friendship is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just in general, because I'll just use Facebook as an example, right? I've been in ministry since I was 17. So I've been doing church work. I grew up in the church. So I know tons of people. Are all those people my friends? Yes, in the sense that I shared life with them. But are all those people that need to be telling me how I need to live my life?
That part.
Not necessarily, right? Because they don't know me, right? If the church that I served 20 years ago, they have a 20-year-old version of me that they remember.
Exactly.
But the man I am now is maybe completely different from the guy that they remember. And so while I might love them and appreciate what they meant to me at that time, they may not be the best person to speak into my life and say, hey, Victor, maybe you should consider doing this, right? Because they don't know me. They don't know who I've become. And so that is also a problem, because then you have people who are out there that if they don't get 1,000 likes on their picture, the world is coming to an end because this was a great picture. I spent so much time crafting it. I found this perfect quote for this meme that I just made. And I'm like, wait a minute, that is not friendship. That is that is something else. That's marketing, maybe.
Listen, I actually heard this conversation the other day. It was in the grocery store, and these two women were talking, and the one woman was saying, well, I don't know. I friended you on Facebook like 2 months ago, and I hadn't got anything. And the other one was like, well, girl, I just don't know. I have to go back and look at you. You could tell, like, she obviously did not want to friend her friend. Anyway.
There are those.
I was saying this is the encounter that you don't want, right? So like online's for real. No, it ain't for real. In the grocery store, her going, you didn't friend me back.
Right.
It's
on the social
intimacy.
media tip, though, I have fallen victim to that like a couple of times, where like there's a person that I used to be really close to, but I mean I don't think that everybody is meant to endure every season with you. So eventually we kind of grew apart, and she unfriended me on Facebook, and I was like,
what just happened?
Okay, like that part of like social media that's like, if we're not friends on Facebook, if we're not following each other on Instagram, then are we even really cool? But in a sense, it's like I don't talk to you in person daily. Right. So like, if I didn't see, like, I would never know, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm like 2 months away from getting rid of social media.
Why does that have to measure the level of like coolness I am with someone?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm about 2 months away from getting rid of all my social media.
2 months.
I'm thinking about it. Like, it's close.
That's an interesting. Not 2 minutes, not 2 seconds. 2 months.
August 13th.
I'm just thinking about it. Like, I'm just like,
I'm working. I'm kind of ginning up those emotions and getting
Because
myself my will ready.
Here's what's going on. It's like, and this is probably completely off topic, but it's like the people that I want to share random pictures with or whatever.
You could probably just text.
You could.
I can text them. I can just text
Yeah.
them because I interact with them regularly, right? But there's a group of people like Kayla mentioned. It's like people that I met in college that we had great times together, built amazing friendships, and I still consider them friends. That if I go and I could still go to their house and have dinner with them, and it would be like time didn't pass. Kids are older, but we still remember the good things that we shared, and I still want to stay in contact with those people. It's not something that I need to call you every day because that's not possible.
Right.
I mean, I might have maybe 400 or 500 people that I would say I have great memories with and I want to stay in contact with in some way. But I can't call those people. I don't have enough time to have a meaningful conversation with them every week.
So you've gotten into something that is really kind of the reason behind us doing this. Kayla and I have been talking about building community among the people in our church, all right, and how that's a struggle when you're talking about hundreds of people and the very small amount of time that we get to spend with them, especially people attending church less nowadays. And so maybe you get a couple hours a week where there's a possibility, I'll get to speak with them and maybe they tune in and catch some sermons online. I hear Kayla sing, but to actually get face-to-face interaction with them, it's going to be quick. And then to actually have like conversations and being able to speak into somebody's life or them, ask you questions, that kind of thing. Those moments are so quick and so and I think, well, I'm having them all the time, but if you take in consideration everybody in the church, well, it's a pretty small amount of people that I'm getting to have regular interaction with. Yeah. And so we've been talking about how do we develop some community using the online tools. And I've got a very difficult relationship with social media. I've canceled my Facebook a bunch of times over the years. I see all the dangers in it, but now, trying to see, all right, where is the benefit? Because these people, our church family that I love and I care about, and I feel a responsibility and weight to shepherd them. I'm trying to see, all right, is there anything I'm leaving on the table, right, to be able to communicate with them? And so we've had this conversation before, and we don't need to go too deep into it today, but just thinking about, is there real community online? Is it a possibility to have real community online? And so that's part of the reason that we're doing this and exploring, doing some more content, like this. I don't know, just real quick, and we won't go too far down. Do you think there's a possibility to have some kind of real community online? I know it's not a substitute for face-to-face. I know it's not a in whole substitute for face-to-face, but do you think there's a possibility to have real community online?
I think. Let me use a kind of a different example to answer that question. Yes, It used to take weeks to get a letter from someone, family, missionary around the world, across the country. Weeks, months, even. Right now, I can pick up this thing right here, type in someone's number, send a text, and check in with them and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you."
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. I think that it can enhance connectivity with people, especially if there's an immediate kind of impression from God that, hey, I need to pray for them. I just want to tell them, hey, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
The immediacy of that is powerful. The problem is that is not a substitute, like you said, for sitting down with somebody in the same room and feeling their presence and looking at them in the face and saying, I care for you.
But I agree. But it does allow for us to, in a sense, spend time together with our busy schedules as they are. So it's in the same way that you watch Netflix, you watch your show whenever you want to. All right. So if we deal with some issues in here, or we talk it through some theological topic or some a life issue like we're dealing with today, then there's an opportunity for people in our church to check in on that and hear on their schedule, right? And so it's not just about information, but also hearing from their pastors, hearing from their ministers, hearing from the people in the church. And so if you're watching, I would encourage you to ask us questions. I mean, you can do it through the comments on this video or through the Facebook or the Instagram. So but yeah, I mean, that's part of what we're hoping to facilitate more. I don't want to go too far down that road,
Yeah.
but I mean, you got anything to say to that,
there's
Kayla?
people that you will never know on it, and it could be argued that this is unhealthy. But hear me out. There are people that you would never get to meet in real life that you feel close to from watching their YouTube channel all the time or from hearing their podcast all the time. You know what I mean? There's still a limit to that. Because, again, you'll probably never know them on an intimate level in real life, like in person. But there's still people that I see, on Instagram or on YouTube that I'm like, oh, what's she doing today? Like looking at their story and stuff like that. So I think that part of it, can there be real community or real relationships formed online? Like, yes, but there's always a limit. You know what I mean? It'll never replace this, but I think for what we're trying to do, it's kind of a perfect way to spend some more time.
Yeah.
I think the issue is, does that person that you're watching communicate back to you? As an example, I'm connected to I purchased a piano learning course online, and the gentleman who created it has a Facebook group for everybody who bought the thing. I've talked to him. Yeah. Like, I've actually interacted with him. And so I feel like we're becoming friendlier. Now, he's busy and he's got a lot of stuff going on. But so he's not a friend in the sense that we share life together. But I feel like there is community because I can text him and email him and say, hey, got a question about this. Now, the context is learning because he's a teacher and I'm a student. But beyond that, I've said, hey, just want to encourage you. I appreciate everything you're doing. And he'll respond back. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It means a lot. So you are building that. If there is no interaction coming back, I feel like that's not community. There has to be a reciprocation. I send something, you send something back. So there's actual communication. If it's just me watching, that's not community, because community or relationship involves the interaction back and forth.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of like my little... caveat. Yeah, because it's one thing for me just to enjoy somebody's YouTube channel and they have no idea I exist. Well, and it's another thing for me to actually have a conversation with them.
Yeah, but at scale, they're not going to... I mean, even if they reply to your comment...
But this is the world we live in. That the definition of relationship has changed because technology has changed how we think about it. Yeah. So we can't give a definition. We have to give examples like, well, we think it should be kind of like this and like that. It's nuanced now in ways that it wasn't before.
Right.
It's different. It's just fine. It's just different.
So I think the goal for us, and we're going to move back to our topic, but I think the goal for us, though, is to have as much of that kind of interaction as possible. And I'm going to try and do a better job of that, with interacting on social media. But to have something out there to interact with, right? To have more opportunities to interact with. And so we're going to keep working on that, and we'll see what happens with it. I think it's worthwhile pursuing, and we're having some fun with it now.
Well, people are doing it anyway. And if the church isn't willing to find a way into that arena, the church is going to be the lesser for
right. I mean, you're in a community of piano players. I'm in a community of woodworkers. Kayla's in a community of makeup artists, or so we're already participating in those communities, and so are our people. So are our church family, and so can we build that around the church too? And so that's the idea. Not just sermon clips, not just but some more community where we actually are knowing each other more. So, all right. So let's get back to toxic relationships, okay? Because I asked the question, you jumped into social media, but I want to get back to this question.
Sorry.
That's cool. That's cool. But I think when it comes down to it, if we all agree, we're not just looking for reasons to cut people off, but would you say that there are some times where things are so toxic, and I guess we'll answer the question, what are those reasons that you feel like, yep, I need to cut this person off. This relationship needs to stop now. And so I won't lead you too much on that. So do you feel like there are times in our relationships that you need to absolutely cut off for some reason?
That is a tough question to answer for me, because as a pastor, you're always trying to help people.
Yeah. So that's a given. We're always trying to. All right. So we've answered that already.
So
we're not trying to cut people off. We're trying to help people.
Yeah.
So, is there ever a time when you have to?
I think the answer is yes. I think anybody who's lived life says yes. Yeah. I think the challenge is always figuring out how much you can take before you have to kind of throw your hands up and say, I can't help you. You obviously don't want to hear from me. There's no movement in any positive direction. For me, I'll just give you my kind of like my baseline is negativity. If every time we talk, it's always negative, you're complaining about something, you're mad about something. I just find that I can't take too much of that, because then it starts to affect me. And so when I feel that I am being affected to the point where I am agreeing with that too much, I find that that's the point where I'm like, I need a break.
Yeah,
I need a break. And so I find a way to limit my exposure to that person. I don't cut them off, because as a pastor, I feel like I should be open to help people whenever they find themselves in need.
Yeah.
But I find that I have to build kind of a fence and say, I'm very careful, I'm cautious, I limit my time, which is difficult to say because, I'm generally a nice person. I like talking to people. Yeah, you are. I like to generally think that. But I think that's kind of the way I look at it, is like when the negativity, and if I could share a story about how we actually met.
Okay.
When we first met, there was a group of pastors that I joined in with, Matt and some others, that I didn't know. I was the new guy in. And we were meeting, and we would meet once a week for a couple, 3 hours. And after like 3 months, the group was so negative. I told the friend that brought me in, I said, dude, I can't keep coming to this group. Like, these pastors are so bitter. Like, just being honest, that's how I felt.
No, you're right on.
And so what I did was I did the only thing I knew how to do, which is to try to change the subject. And so I invited all the pastors to just read the scripture together, which is kind of a weird thing to ask a bunch of pastors, but that wasn't a part of what was going on at the time. So I said, would you be willing to do that? And after that, it changed everything, because the focus stopped being the problems that we saw, and it became the God who called us into service. Yeah. And he just really changed that. And so I always try to do that. I always try to introduce a discipleship component to it.
Right.
Let's focus on the things that God is calling us to and see if he can resolve some of those issues. Yeah. And it transformed the group and, introduced me to these guys and really brought true friendships from those things that I value and cherish. And so...
It was just before you go on, a big moment for me, too. Because you're absolutely right. What was going on there was... part of what we're talking about here is that you had a group of people who were suffering from toxic relationships. Absolutely being beat down, trying their best to serve their churches and just getting beat up. And so it was a commiseration going on. And so the negativity was feeding negativity in that group. And so that example of going, hey, let's focus around something positive to talk about. Let's at least springboard off of that, you know. But that's been good for me. It was good for me in that moment, but it's been good for me as a ministry tool as I deal with people who are stuck in negativity and counseling situations over the years. So I really owe everything that I am today to you, Victor. But
anyways,
go ahead.
Just to finish, and this is the last thing I'll say is for me, if I do that, if I realize, okay, there's a negativity problem here, which tends to be kind of the bottom, it's like where everybody ends up. Toxicity starts with negativity. Yeah. You're just bathing in it all the time. Mm-hmm. If we can move out of that, I think that salvages the relationship. It salvages the person's feeling of despair or desperation or whatever they have. And so if we can get people out of that, I think that's where God really begins to make a difference in that person's life. And so I don't give up. I don't like to quit on folks. I don't like to quit on myself. And so if that person just, if I'm just pulling them and they don't want to come, like at that point I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to have to turn you over to the Lord because he obviously can't use me in your life right now. And so I pray that God will bring somebody in your life that will help you see the positive, help you get out into the better things that God has. So that's kind of my mindset. That's how I think about it after almost 20 years of ministry, is like, what can I do to help people see the positive in the Word, in their relationship with God, in their relationship with the community of the church. And if I can't, then that's where I say, okay, I've done enough.
Right.
I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Kayla? Is there a point where you do have to cut someone off? I believe that there is. Obviously, if you're in not just a toxic atmosphere, but a dangerous atmosphere, that goes without saying. Like, leave. But as far as like what Victor was saying, I could kind of relate to that. I think in the past, I wish that I had tried harder to bring it towards positivity. But then there are other times also that I felt like because I was so young, that person they weren't letting me grow up and change. You know what I mean? Like holding me captive to what they previously know about me or how they experienced me up until, this point. And even like speaking things in my life that just completely did not agree with me. And that's where I had to cut it off. It's because like I don't want you praying over me or speaking into me and you don't see me. You don't want to, see what I'm evolving to. And you're not following where God is trying to lead me in my life as well.
Yeah, they're trying to make you in their image rather than...
Exactly. So that for me is like, was applying too much pressure. And I didn't know what to do about it. Yeah. And I just didn't feel at all that it was something that I was supposed to be dealing with. So then I just said,
wow,
I gotta go. I can't. This friendship has to end. Hopefully, in the future, maybe God could, we can reconcile or, maybe, I don't know about being this close, but, whatever God sees fit, it doesn't have to be like about forever, but for at least in this season, I cannot.
So in that case, you feel like somebody is intentionally trying to lead you to something or to a place or a behavior not
so much lead as much as just pressure.
Influence.
Because they influence, exactly. Because they weren't in the position to like lead me. They were in no place of authority over me. But
exerting negative peer pressure on you.
Yes. Negative in the sense that it just wasn't propelling me forward. It wasn't, it was trying to keep me confined into this.
But it was pretty intentional. It wasn't just like...
Yeah. No, it was very intentional.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Just a quick story. So, my dad's the senior pastor of our church, as you mentioned earlier. And I've been here almost 5 years. And so, while he might be my dad, we do have slightly different approaches sometimes to situations. And there have been several instances of this where my father has made a decision as to how he wants to proceed. And I have given him my insight or counsel as to what I think should happen. And in the end, he has to make the ultimate decision, right? And so someone came to me and said, how do we deal with that? Because we agree with you. And so with me. And I said,
I guess we're both wrong.
But this is what I told her. I said, you have to understand, my father has not only 20 years of ministry on me, but also, 22 years of life on me. He's seen a lot, his experiences. I said, he can make that decision based on who he is. I cannot make that decision based on who I am. Yeah. Therefore, in the same situation, I would go my way based on the information I have right now in front of me and the wisdom that I have gained in my life up till now. Yeah. Does that make his decision right or wrong? No, it makes it his decision.
Yeah.
Period. My decision is my decision based on the information that I have. And I said, that's what happens, that someone may look at a relationship that I have with someone and say, man, how can you keep on? I would have cut them off. You're not me. Right? My tolerance or my desire to pursue that relationship to improve it may not be yours. And so what happens is that people will get into your business and they'll tell you how you should react with that person because they've had a poor relationship, not realizing that my tolerance, and I use that word loosely, but my ability to endure in that relationship is because of who I have become from all of the things that I've experienced.
Yeah.
And so we have to be careful not to judge other people's choices in the relationships that they keep based on our negative impressions of that situation. Because, like my father did, he could handle it based on his experience. I could not have. And I had to be self-aware enough to say that and say, I am not in a position, maturity, wisdom, experience, to deal with this the way he's dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so I have to keep my hands off without judgment. And that has been a powerful lesson to me, is that while I want to cut you off, maybe they don't need to.
Yeah.
And so we have to counsel with that kind of in the back of our minds. At least I do. That's something I've kind of learned over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other examples of, Kayla, for reasons or a situation where you would cut somebody off?
I mean, there were, other than that, I would say it was just like basic, like when I first started taking Christ more seriously, my relationship with Christ more seriously, I had to distance myself from the people that I used to hang out with. Just because I knew I wasn't strong enough to say no to certain things.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I did what was best for me.
Yeah.
But I think that when we get into saying, like, if it doesn't serve you at all, don't,
Right.
Because not every relationship is bad. Not every relationship is toxic. You just may not be the one that is being poured into. At the moment, maybe you're pouring into somebody else.
Right.
And
so I think a lot of people, if you put up the topic toxic relationship, and they heard your beginning definition of what people are thinking about, people who are a drain, or get on my nerves. The people they heard toxic relationship, they thought, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, my child steals from me over and over and over. They're addicted to methamphetamines, and I've tried over and over and over again to try and help them, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm even helping them anymore with what I'm doing, and they're going, somebody didn't like your stuff on Instagram. What you talking about? You know what I mean? So I think some people might have come to this and with some like real. And I'm not saying there's different levels, all this stuff. So, but I would say that there's some people who are listening, watching, who are thinking, all right, I've got a situation where I'm really at a place where I don't know if I need to cut off my child, right? Or if I need to get out of. Some people are asking themselves, do I need to get out of this marriage, right? Because it is so toxic, and then in ministry, as we talk about as ministers or as friends who are trying to help other people to grow to be more like Christ, you have all kinds of difficulties, whether that's sinful habit or emotional hang-ups or whatever it may be, things that are really super messy, right? At what point do we go, I can't have that mess in my, that mess is too close to my life. It's going to mess up my life. I think that's the question a lot of people would ask. I think you said something like that earlier. But then, for me, there's a couple of things. Okay. So first of all, when does that mess cross over to a point where it's hurting you and I don't ever worry so much about me. I figure like I signed on to get messy, right? That's ministry. Where it's not just about preaching on Sundays. It's not, the part that happens during the week where people are going through divorce. When my phone rings, most of the time it's bad news. Somebody's got diagnosed with something serious. They're caught in addiction. Whatever it is, their marriage is about to fall apart. They've got wayward children. Horrible, difficult things, and some of them are just, if you get real close to them, you're at least minimally emotionally going to be getting caught up in it. Mm-hmm. But then there's possibility once you start helping people, you when you go to somebody's house, when you pick them up and you give them a ride somewhere, when you start getting involved in their finances, mm-hmm. right? There's all kinds of ways for things to get messy and for you to get caught up in somebody's mess. I mean, they may subpoena you and ask you to go to court. All kinds of things that can happen, and you go, well, how much of that am I going to deal with? And so, for me as a pastor, I feel like, well, I kind of signed on for that, and so I don't know where my line is. I don't, as far as hurting me, like physically is kind of the last of it for me. My wife gives me a hard time, and she's like, you let that person ride with you, or you went to that place, and I don't always think about it that way because I'm a hero. But I just figure that's what we signed on for. God's going to give us those opportunities. He's going to take care of us, that kind of thing. So then the next question is, though, all right, well, what about the people close to me, my family? All right, when is that mess, either my emotional state that's happening from dealing with this situation, or actual things where people show up at our house, or whatever that is, are there moments where you go, all right, no more, right? All right, here's the rules. You don't come to my house, and I'm not talking about regular folks, church family. I'm talking about people who have had demonstrated some serious crossing the line of like threatening behavior, mm-hmm. Really, and most of those cases have been people who suffer from mental illness. And there's been some suffering with addiction, and some people who are kind of, I would describe as extra needy, but the ones that that are worried about as being dangerous, the ones who suffer from mental illness, which is a real struggle for many people and super messy, and I think really hard for everybody, our culture, to deal with, and the church is really struggling with how to deal with it. So I guess that's one of the questions I ask is this hurting my family? Where's that line where I feel like it's dangerous for my family, and do I need to stop something? And so I'm talking about real extreme cases, real extreme relationships.
I think the problem with that is most people want a cookie cutter answer.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it's a tailored approach.
Yeah.
Every situation is unique.
Right. So like for some people, if a guy that and you've been sharing Jesus with him, interaction with him in the community, if he calls you late at night, drunk, again, some people go, well, there's the line, you don't do, it's after 11 o'clock, I'm at home, and you're calling me to come get you, or like, well, there's the line, I'm not doing that. And I'm not sure. Right? I'm not sure how many times do you do that? Where do you go? I've always had difficulty drawing that line and going, all right, I'm done with this person, because I've taken them to rehab twice. I have gone to their house. I've gone and picked them up. I've driven them, to places because I found them at the grocery store drunk, and I drove, their vehicle home, and got my wife to come pick me up or whatever, so those kind of things. How many times do you do that? And I go, well, I don't know. Is it 70 times 7? Because in some ways it is I feel like it's an offense against me because I've kept trying to help you, but it's not an offense against me, right? It's not something done towards me, and so it is their struggle, and most of the folks we're dealing with don't want to be. They don't want to be a nuisance. They don't want to be addicted. They don't want to have the voices. They if they knew. And so trying to figure out where that line is for me is a very difficult thing as a minister. Now, when it comes to people's lives, when you're talking about marriage, relationships, and parents and kids, I think that, you got to ask yourself, is this dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. If something's physically dangerous, and sometimes, there can be emotional abuse that's happening that's pretty bad. You think about, all right, do we need to create some separation here? Maybe it's not permanent, but do we need to create some separation here? And then there's another thing that I ask myself. Is my helping them?
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Am I actually helping them, or am I hurting them? Mm-hmm. And if me giving them a little more money, or giving them another ride, or answering their phone call again, mm-hmm. is helping them to continue to get one more night drunk or one more night high, am I helping or am I hurting?
Right.
All right. If I were to stop, would that be the moment where they hit the bottom and go? And so some of the rules I've had in the past are: don't call me again unless you're calling me to take you to rehab. I will answer that call. I will come and get you. I will take you there, wherever it is. That's the only other phone call I'm taking from you, mm-hmm. right? So I've been at that place in the past. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I felt like if I were to give them one more little bit of help, answer that phone call in the middle of the night while they're drunk, am I helping them? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think my gut, based on how you framed it, it depends on what you know about them. Mm-hmm. It depends on your relationship with that person. Yeah. So and this isn't the case, but if it was my first cousin who was the addict versus a stranger off the street, the way I would respond to my first cousin is different. Mm-hmm. And I would be willing, to go further.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a relationship that's there. And so that's personal. Ministry-wise, you find yourself trying to assess how am I actually helping? I think if you're not honest about that, you're liable to be used in a way that hurts you. Mm-hmm. Right? But if you're honest about that, what am I willing to do in ministry, right? So I'm going to frame that in that context. Yeah. If I'm willing to go as far as the end of the road, right, I go to the end of the road.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens, because something my dad says, I have to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I have to live a life where I am not ashamed of what I've done. Yeah. And I have no regrets as to what I've done. And so if I can go to sleep at night saying, I've done the best I could, I've been as far as I could go, and I knew that if I went any further, I would be damaged, then that's all you can do. You can't feel guilty about that. You have to be honest and say, I've done all I could do.
Yeah.
And once you get there, you have to just let yourself off the hook in a sense. Yeah. And that's not easy, but you got to do it. You got to learn how to do it, because even I struggle with that, but I got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different for me, because if it's my first cousin, then I, in most cases, know that person has a lot of sense. So I'm helping you twice. Get your stuff together after that. Like, we know what you've been through. We know. Let's see somebody. You know what I mean? But that's just me. Other than that, how much do you put your neck on the line for someone? I think that you hit it on the head when you said, is my helping them actually helping them? Mm-hmm. Like, if giving them another, cash loan is going to propel them to go into the direction that is God's plan for their life, by all means. But if what I'm doing is only hurting them and enabling them, then I can't do that, because then I'm not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I think everyone has to be in tune with themselves and be in tune with Christ to know their own personal limits and what they can take. Like you were talking about earlier, negativity is kind of your line. For me, negative pressure is kind of my line. Or if your expectations for me are not something that I, not just I see for myself, because sometimes God puts someone in your life to offer you a different perspective, or to reveal to you something that you wouldn't see on your own.
Right.
But everyone has they have their thing. For my sister, I know personally her thing is like if someone isn't honest with her about how they feel, like if they talk to somebody else about things that they've been dealing with, with her, or she said something, but then you don't come to her, that's kind of like, that's very difficult for her to handle, or for her to trust after that. Right. Everybody has their thing, Yeah. But you have to, I wouldn't label somebody as like toxic right off the bat. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that's my whole struggle with this, with the whole thing. Is like, you can't call somebody toxic because you have to, what are their intentions? Like, right. What are, know?
Right. But the thing is, everybody knows their line, but nobody ever tells anybody. Here's my line. Please don't cross it.
Well, some people, they're very upfront. Like, that.
I can deal with those people. Thank you.
Same.
But they may have drawn it way out in front of them too far. You know what I mean? So, let's.
Yes. Is your line Christ-like?
Yeah. Right. So let's end the conversation because we need to finish up. But let's end the conversation talking about church life. Okay. So talking about life in the church, because people are drawn. Many people are drawn to church. At times, and I'm talking about when new people come in. Mm-hmm. Right. So you got kind of the core of the church family that's around, people who at one point were new to their faith and have been growing for some time, but in our church we've got people from all different walks, and so you're going to have people with different kinds of needs, and so people coming from different backgrounds, and so the way that their life brushes up against yours or not, just the way that you see somebody, the way that they talk, or the subjects that they're willing to talk about openly into you in public in church, or the things that they wear, or there's something about their past or what they're going through now. A lot of people are spend a lot of time kind of just in a very superficial way, and maybe not even a way that they're really aware of, just going, these folks are different, this is looks like it's going to take a little more energy, effort, I just want to come in, let's watch sing and watch the sermon and, head back out. Some of these folks are a little too different than what I'm used to, whether that's a different race or different socioeconomic group, or maybe going through, recovery or whatever it may be. And I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is that coming back around to always looking, that attitude of always looking for a reason to cut people off. Mm-hmm. I think in the church, we should always be looking for a reason to bring people in. To invite them into relationship with us. Jesus called us to make disciples. And so even if you feel like this person doesn't have it together, they're very different than I am, I'm not sure, and this is a tough one, I'm not sure if I would want my children to be around that person, right? I mean, that's something, I have to consider. But then I think, all right, my favorite passage in the Bible is Luke chapter 15. Jesus is there with the tax collectors and sinners. There's many other examples of Jesus, spending time, not just preaching at, but the criticism there from the Pharisees was he's eating with, he's actually welcoming them in, I think is how the passage reads. And then Jesus goes into the story about, this is exactly why I'm here. And basically the end of the story, which is the story of the prodigal son, Jesus is making the point that the older brother should have gone to look for, these that are lost, and you got the search for the lost sheep, the search for the lost coin, and then nobody goes to look for the brother. And so Jesus is making the point to these people who are watching on, this is what we're supposed to be about. Welcoming in those who are messy and different and going to take more effort and going to be emotionally draining and sometimes going to be super needy. And so if I was going to give some encouragement to, our folks, we've got all the different advice we passed along the way, but just thinking about church life, I would want our folks, and us as ministers to always be thinking about, where's my reason to invite somebody in? Let me be looking for the person who looks like it's their first time here, looks like nobody else is going to speak to them. You know, maybe looking for that person. Look for the person that's having a tougher time, and go to that person. You go, looking for the trouble. Yeah, I think so.
Essentially, yeah.
I think so. I mean, looking for the person that's struggling. Looking for the person that's going to be. You know, it's going to be a longer conversation. You know, it's not going to, yeah, I'm doing fine. How about you? You know, how about the kids' baseball? You know, it's not going to be that. You know, but we need to. I think not just ministers, but all Christians need to be looking for those things. So yeah, any closing thoughts from you guys?
I think that was a very pretty bow to put on this.
Well, thank you very
this
much.
podcast
I
episode.
like the thought of putting a bow on the podcast. So we'll wrap it up here. Victor, thank you for being with me and Kayla again today. We really appreciate it. You are still my best friend. So
I appreciate that.
All right, man. So we'll wrap up Fortcast for today, and we will encourage you to send in some questions and topic ideas and
Yes,
things that we can discuss in the future. So thanks for watching.